Hi friends, how are you doing? I'm doing well. Welcome back to another episode of Beer Knits podcast, where I combine all things crafts, whether it's knitting, crocheting, and or craft beer. We try to do it all here. You might notice something a little bit different with today's format, and that's I don't have beer with me. And that's because we're doing this episode a little bit different this time. My husband Scott and I just got back from a long weekend in Salem, Massachusetts, where we not only did all the witchy things, but we also bought some yarn. Well, I did. And then we went to a couple of breweries. So I figured what we could do is I could take you on a little bit of a vlog excursion with us through Salem and show you some of the stuff that we drank or that I was knitting on, or some of the goods that we picked up along the way. Now, I don't want you to think this is going to be a super in-depth historical review of Salem, Massachusetts. It is the site of the Salem witch trials, as I'm sure you all know. I have read like the book on the issue. It's like this thick, hard to follow because everyone has the same three names. It is a very interesting historical site. You know, a lot of people go there because of all like the witchy stuff and the occult stuff, but at the end of the day, it is very historical. And if you're looking for a review of all the historic sites that you can actually visit while you're there, I recommend the Grimm Collective. They went to Salem, I forget if it was this past year or the year before, and they give you all of the tips on the different places you should visit, either the memorials or just like some of the more fun stuff. Not that the memorials aren't fun or anything, but they are kind of somber. We got to as much as we could in 2 days, basically. So if you're looking for more information about Salem itself, I recommend the Grimm Collective's video on that. I will link it down below. This is just going to be everything that we were able to hit up in 2 days and a bunch of the stuff that we bought. That said, if while you're watching you enjoy anything or just want to talk about something that, you know, we show during the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will make sure to get back to you right away. The Salem area of Massachusetts is a solid 5.5, 6 hour drive for us, so we essentially just buckled up. I got Scott this little Jeep duck storage holder for Valentine's Day, so the drive gave us an opportunity to really test it out, while I also had the opportunity to make some more progress on my anthology throw. Of course, we couldn't make the trip to Massachusetts without stopping into Treehouse Brewing. It's been on both my and Scott's wish list for quite some time, so we needed to make a quick pit stop. Where are we?
Treehouse.
Yeah. Yay. And by quick pit stop, I mean a 3-hour pit stop. The facility is massive, as well as their beer list. They do things a little bit differently. You pre-purchase up to 3 beers ahead of time using a QR code. So that was a little bit different for us, but Scott still managed to do some financial damage. Like I said earlier, you order everything through a QR code up to and including the beer you're going to pick up. And they essentially have this like conveyor belt where you go and you take your dolly and load up these cases of beer. And apparently this is a thing that people do pretty regularly, that they actually provide the dollies for you to do this to make your life a little bit easier. And we were not ashamed with needing to use one at all. But yeah, we definitely left with some delightful goodies that Scott has been sampling here and there ever since we got home. With much sadness, it was now time to leave our new favorite brewery and head to Salem. Our first stop, other than the hotel, was this kind of a divey but witchy horror type bar called All Souls Lounge, where we had these really delicious cocktails as well as gourmet hot dogs. Well, I had a gourmet hot dog and Scott had some gigantic grilled cheese sandwich that was absolutely worth ordering. So make sure to check it out if you ever go. That was pretty much all we did the first night because we were cold and we were tired. So the next day was when we really tried to head out for a bunch of fun, except, weather. Enjoying the snow?
Yeah, it's not really snow.
It's kind of ice and grossness. We might have had our faces pelted by sleet all morning, but we did get to see the Elizabeth Montgomery / Bewitched statue. That was a staple on my list. That was an absolutely must visit for me. And then we made our way over to this place called the GULU Cafe, where we had one of my favorite meals on the trip. It was just this really cute place. Dogs are welcome, so there were definitely some dogs that I stared at longingly while we were there, and we just had some really delicious food. Scott got this walnut banana bread that was absolutely delicious, plus, our sandwiches and yummy coffee. After filling up on breakfast, it was time to at least attempt walking around the town. The super wet and cold snow didn't make it easy, but I did get to see Old Town Hall, which you've probably seen featured in at least a few movies like Hocus Pocus. And then we got to the Salem Witch Trials Memorial. And I think this is the one that most people are familiar with. There are actually a couple in town. And even though we didn't get to stay here very long because of the weather, it was nice to get out there and see what it looks like. And what it is there, I call them benches. I don't know if they're supposed to be benches, but each of the benches has the person's name who was a victim of the Salem witch trials in the 1600s. So it seems like a sweet memorial. One of my friends told me that the descendants come and they place roses or just generally flowers on the memorials to, keep their memory alive. And I think that's it was a terrible time in our history. We have so many of those, but this one to me is particularly shameful for a number of reasons. But yeah, it was really nice to get out there and see what it looked like. Then I always say it's not a Keeler family vacation without going somewhere that has a literary reference. So we made our way over to the House of the Seven Gables. While we didn't take a tour, it was nice to see the house. I'm actually reading the book by Nathaniel Hawthorne as we speak because it seemed timely, I suppose. And it was nice to see the actual location. Apparently, I don't think this is the original location, or at least a bunch of the houses in this area have been moved from their original locations, including the house that Nathaniel Hawthorne was born in. So I can't say for sure. I need to do some more reading about it, but it was still interesting to see. Truly, the first thing that I do when we start talking about going away for any type of trip is look up a local yarn shop that I can stop into. So I found Circle of Stitches. It's actually not hard to find, and I had tried to make sure to look up a project ahead of time so I didn't buy anything that I don't need. But Scott convinced me that I needed a bunch of other stuff anyway, including this coffee cup with a unicorn in it, because reasons, and this embroidery kit, which is just absolutely lovely. I'm really excited about it. And then I also picked up this gorgeous yarn and yummy candle. This is a close-up of the yarn that I got, and it is Malabrigo Rios. It is 872 in Purpurus. And the reason that I got this is because I have started watching the Prickly Stitch podcast, which if you aren't watching them already, then make sure to check them out. And one of the girls has finished knitting a Farnese shawl by Paula Wisniewska, who I actually interviewed for Knitability a few issues back, so make sure to check that out as well. She is delightful. She has gorgeous patterns. The girls on the Prickly Stitch, she knit a black version of it, which I really loved, and I've been on the market for a black shawl for quite some time now because it's neutral, and a lot of the shawls that I knit are very bright and they don't necessarily go with the rest of my outfit, and I'm the type of person that's kind of like, okay, whatever, but at the same time I think it would be nice to have a black shawl. So of course I walk into Circle of Stitches and see this, which is a deep purple with like some magenta kisses throughout, and it had to be mine. I figure it's like a Gen black, if you will. I figured it was good enough on the black front. So it's dark. It's more of like a neutral purple, and I can wear it with a lot of different things without it completely clashing. You might recognize this house as the main house in Hocus Pocus, so we also made sure to go there. And then this is the other Salem Witch Memorial. It's at Proctor's Ledge. This is where they believe the actual incidents happened. So they have another area where everyone's names are engraved in stone, and it's kind of just like off a street, but it's nice. On our way back to try to get warm, because that Hocus Pocus house was basically in a wind tunnel, we stopped at a brewery called Granite Coast Brewing for just, a couple hours to drink some delightful beer. And then for dinner, we went to this other brewery called Notch, which Scott had been there before in the past and didn't exactly have the greatest experience, I guess, due to the company he was with. So it was nice to be able to go back with him and have some fun, drink more than a beer, which is all he got the last time. And then I brought my anthology throw along because I'm in the mood to finish this thing already. So there's that. We got these delicious sausages and kind of all of their food. And then once again, Scott got one of their Milko Pours. We get Milko Pours anywhere that we see has them, just because we think that they're fun. He got mad at me because I made him laugh because he was taking forever drinking it. Whenever they're served in these giant mugs, it's just kind of a struggle. It's a lot to drink, and it's usually very cold, and you get a brain freeze, as you can see, and you need a moment. There is a brewery by us that does what they call milk tubes instead, and it's a smaller pour, and it's much more consumable. But don't worry, Scott powered through, and he got it down. The next day on our hunt for more Hocus Pocus houses, we passed by the witch house, which apparently a lot of people get confused with the House of the Seven Gables based on my Google searching, but it was pretty cool to see. And then the piece de resistance, really, of this trip was being able to see ALLISON'S house from Hocus Pocus. It's actually a museum, so nobody lives there. There is a garden in the back that you can tour, but we didn't have time to do that because we needed to rush around on our way out. But it was really cool to see the location and kind of be part of the movie. That was really important to me when I was younger. Then we couldn't leave Salem without fitting in one final meal. So we went to Red Sandwich Shop, which is apparently a local place. Like, all the locals like to go there. It's very popular. It's essentially a diner that has, just really good food. It would be dangerous if we lived here, I'll tell you that much. And that was it for Salem. At that point, we hopped back in the Jeep and made our way home. We got stuck in hours of traffic around New York City, so I was able to make some progress on my Chromatic Pullover from Knitpicks, which is turning out lovely, and it's giving me a chance to use my new-ish ghost stitch markers from Dragon Horde yarn. All in all, it was really a fun trip. I think it was too short. The two of us could probably make a full week out of Salem and Boston if we really wanted to. Just seeing new restaurants, shopping, me finding all the yarn shops, because there are actually a ton that you can drive to. And the fact that I only went to one is kind of shocking. So 10 out of 10 would recommend a trip to Salem. That is it for the vlog portion of this episode of Beer Knits. I hope you enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun for only being there a couple of days. Anyway, I don't have too many updates other than that, but maybe the most significant one that I can talk about is that I started and finished a 6-day star blanket since I last saw you. This is a pattern by Betty McKnit. Again, it's called 6-Day Star Blanket, which took me more about like 2.5 weeks to start and finish. I had a goal of using up 3 of those Karen big cakes that were sitting on my shelf, taking up valuable space that I wanted to use for other yarn, mostly my more indie dyed stuff. And these were just hanging out there, and they're gigantic, just like a space waster. And I had bought them to make a blanket out of, and it just never happened. So I chose this because I was just kind of in a crocheting mood and I wanted the instant gratification. I really like it. Again, it's Karen Big Cakes, and I think the colorway is like toffee brickles or something like that. I threw out the labels, so I have no idea. But either way, the yarn is discontinued, so I'm not sure it really matters anymore. I'm kind of sad about that actually, because it's really nice too with the striping and whatnot. You don't have to weave in so many ends. If I was doing this with like just regular balls of yarn, or even like the smaller cakes that they have. And then I had some leftover yarn from like, I think Hobby Lobby, you know, the store that shall not be named. I used that for the border because I ran out of yarn by the end. But yeah, it was perfect because I did use up 3 full big cakes. And I do wish maybe the blanket was a little bit bigger, but I think this is like a perfect size to just, if I want to sit on the couch and I'm a little bit chilly, I can just throw this over my lap or over my shoulders and it's done. More than likely the animals are going to take it from me and I'll never see it again. But I do recommend this pattern if you're looking for some quick instant gratification. It's easy to memorize, so you can make it as big as you want. Like once you figure out what the repeat is and how the rows work, you can just very easily memorize the pattern and call it a day. All right, well, I think that is going to be it for this episode. Again, if you enjoyed what you saw, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will make sure to see you in the next one. Bye.